Welcome to episode 32 of Pop Kannon. My name is Jordan.
As always, I'm Robert.
I'm Andrew.
I be Brian.
And today, fellas, we are talking all about Netflix's The Witcher.
Starring Henry Cavill. Cavill?
And his
Cavill.
And his incredible jawline.
Cavill.
Should have its own top
The
credit.
strongest jaw on the planet.
But yes, The Witcher, based on the novels of the same name?
Yeah.
Different name? I don't know if...
Well, I believe it's all the Witcher series, but
Right.
there's the first two books are like short stories, and then the third book is the first full novel.
Okay. And I know there's like a game series, but it's not
There is.
canon?
Not canon.
Yeah, it's like its own separate universe.
Yeah, we're Pop Canon. That's not canon.
Yeah. Strangely
Non-canonical.
enough, they are in our canon, though.
What? What is happening?
That's what I asked myself the entire time I was watching The Witcher.
No.
Uh-oh.
So,
So initial thoughts, Jordan.
first thoughts, those were my first thoughts, is what is happening? Andrew.
Yeah. It was a little convoluted at times.
Mm-hmm.
But I still had a good time just looking at the pretty colors and scenery and the fun fight scenes. So
I love when Andrew's like,
Just that deep critique.
yeah, they were pretty colors and I liked them.
My initial thoughts were that it was a little dense to start. But as it went on, I started to pick up on things more, and I really liked it a lot.
Yeah.
my initial thoughts were along the same line as Brian, where it was definitely a lot at the beginning, but as it went on, I feel like I just understood a little bit more what was happening. It was still really difficult in certain spots to follow, but overall I did enjoy my viewing experience. I do have issues with it.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that I didn't like. I definitely didn't hate what I was watching.
Right.
I feel like it desperately needed to be 16 episodes or even like 12 episodes.
What?
It was
Yeah.
just so
Oh, God.
so dense. And if they
Yeah,
could have just kind of
really
spread things out.
They really chucked a lot into. They really packed a lot into, especially those first two episodes.
Yeah,
First
I was going to
episodes
say
were a
those
little
first
rough.
two were tough
Yeah.
to get through because it's just, and I don't like when shows do that. They just like front loaded so much information and new words, and you don't know what any of them mean or what they correlate to.
I'm not trying to pat myself on my own back, but after about 5 to 10 minutes of the first episode, I went back, started it over, and put the subtitles on. And I'm really glad that I did that because I wasn't picking up like half of the names and places that were being said, but seeing it, reading it while it's being said, I was picking up, oh, Blaviken, okay, Stregobor, okay, like, and all this stuff, and like, oh, okay, so they just mentioned Calanthe, okay, so that's good, okay, so yeah,
Yeah, no, and it's good to do that. 'Cause I think we watched it with the subtitles as well, just because, like, for whatever reason, even like on my TV, putting the volume up to fucking 50, I still can't hear anything. So I had it up to 50 plus subtitles to try to watch it. And like when they say certain words in conversation and they breeze through them so quickly, you're like,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, Calanthe, oh, Nilfgaard, and you're like, are those nouns
right,
or
right.
like, is he saying Nilfgaard is like a thing that they do? Like, so
Is
when
it
you
an
see it's
exclamation?
capitalized, you're like, oh, I get
Oh,
it. That's a
Nilfgaard,
person,
I
place, or
stubbed my
thing.
toe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was especially because like you were saying, they were so front loaded in the first two episodes, and they threw so much at you, and there was a point where I'm like, oh, what's happening? Who is that? What's going on now? Okay, now he's what? You know, it was. I kind of wish I had done it with the subtitles now.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate that having to do that means that you understand it better because you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to do that.
I mean, it's pretty typical.
They couldn't fucking name
fantasy.
anybody Adam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
And a lot of-
look, I haven't read the books, but I have to assume that they adhered pretty well to the books with the names and everything. So, because they seem like pulled out of books. Like,
Yeah.
once the second episode hit, the 3 different arcs at different times, that was also difficult to keep track of at first.
Why the
yeah,
fuck would they do that?
Yeah.
I fucking hated it. Hated it.
Yeah,
It-
I mean,
it
dude,
served no purpose
Yeah.
for the story in any way, shape, or form other than let's disorient to disorient. It's not like they built up and like that was like the twist at the end of the season. They just were like, oh yeah, you don't have to watch this in any order.
That is what it felt like, honestly. I said that to Jordan when he said he was finished with it. There were certain things that it felt like you didn't have to watch it as a series. You could have just done it in any order. Except, like, those last 3, maybe? Seemed like they were following a specific plot. But there were definitely a few episodes where it was like, cold open is the setup. We're finished by the credits, and we have a nice contained story. We move to the next episode.
Yeah.
Which I feel like something like that would work better if they just had more.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
More
agree.
time to, because there was also certain character relationships that kind of felt like,
Hollow?
yeah, like Siri and Dara.
Yeah, the elf.
But there's a point when she's like, "Oh, well, we're family now." Blah, blah, blah. It's like, why
Are
don't
you?
show? Why don't you show that? Show more of their relationship. Build it more. Have more moments with them. You
That
can't
was
just
my-
say it.
That was my least favorite part of the season was the Siri storyline in the forest. I can't remember. It begins with a B, but and with the
Because that didn't make any sense, really.
with the nymphs or whatever they are, or the dryads they're called. Yeah, that just all of that storyline. I was like, ugh, all right, like I was kind of slogging through that. And I was like, can we get back to Geralt, please? Like,
Yeah, they bring
get
her
back to
into their
Yennefer?
woods. They bring her into their woods, and they're like, "All right, girl, for you to stay here, you have to drink this water. That means you're gonna forget everything you've ever known." And she was like, "LOL, okay."
Yeah.
And then somebody showed up who was like, "Hey, that girl is mine." And she was like, "Oh my god, I remember you."
It
I w-
just felt so rushed.
Yeah.
So
I
much of
agree.
it was rushed, and there was times when I'm watching, like, I enjoyed the show overall, and I want to see more, but there were so many times I wanted to be like, let me just see Geralt kill something, please. Let me follow Geralt for a little while longer. I'm interested in him more than anyone else.
won't somebody just throw a pie?
Yeah, basically.
I didn't give a shit about a single character in this show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Didn't fucking care. Didn't want to finish the fucking thing. I would have given up after episode 1 if we weren't doing this podcast episode. Honest to God. I kept wanting to care, and nothing ever made me care.
Okay.
And I'm not the biggest fan on, like, medieval
Fantasy.
stuff and, like, high fantasy type stuff.
Yeah,
But, like,
this is high fantasy.
I understand it and I
Absolutely.
could appreciate it, but nothing here did it for me. I hated the timeline shit. I think that's what I hated the most about it, was because
Yeah.
it didn't make any sense in the fact that it didn't add to the story. It was just as if the editor went cross-eyed and Netflix like put it in like a wrong order or something. Like they uploaded it differently.
I got Westworld season 2 vibes with like why are we doing it this way?
This makes Westworld season 2 seem like it was the artsiest decision in the
Yeah.
world.
No, I agree. I had no idea that the timelines were even fucked up until in episode 3
Right.
Geralt's talking to that king whose
Right.
name I can't remember, but it's a very
Falstaff.
specific name.
Yeah, King Falstaff.
Yeah, and it's a very specific name, so like obviously if somebody else is named that somewhere, it's the same person. And then later on in the episode, you're introduced to him and his sister that we heard about, but they're children.
Yeah.
And they look exactly like they did in the painting that Geralt looked at. So
I like sat back and I pointed at the TV and I was like, wait a second.
Huh.
Yeah. And then from there I was like, oh, well then wait a minute. And like I still, even though there's a photo of a timeline that somebody put together.
Oh yeah.
And even looking at that, I don't know what the fucking order I saw everything in was. Even though they're telling you episode this happens, episode this happens, and I'm still looking at it like, okay.
So I'm looking at the Wikipedia entry for the episodes, and I feel like a big reason for that weird disconnect is, well, the first 2 books are just short stories. Each episode, it looks like, is based on a short story in the first 2 books. And except 4, which is based on 2 stories. But they kind of felt like it all cobbled together.
Yeah.
Like they tried to mash it all into a plot line and send it forward throughout the season.
Yeah, if the author of the books put them in short stories as opposed to an overarching narrative, there's probably a reason.
Yeah.
So I don't know this, but this is just the feeling I get. How it comes off to me is that Netflix was like, okay, well, Game of Thrones ended a few months ago, and this is clearly falling into that hole that is now left by Game of Thrones ending.
Yeah.
Let's get this out as quickly as possible. That's how it comes off to me. Now, I don't know that's what happened, but I think that if they had maybe taken a few more months in editing, or maybe even extended it to a 10-episode season, that it might have been a different story, but I don't know.
To me, there's no reason why it's not a 10-episode season.
Yeah,
there's no reason.
We look at so many different, or even a 13, like the Netflix show or the Marvel Netflix shows are. Those are 13-episode seasons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, see, if they stretch this into 13 episodes, I could only imagine between episodes 6 and 8 what the hell would be happening to the point where I'd be trying to not sleep.
But my point is,
I know what you mean.
They have 13-episode seasons for those, and we do get dips. Like, yeah, at least a 10-episode season for this, because there's just so much, just so much, and it might mean that there's a one episode that's very Siri based that everyone's just like, that's
right.
They
episode.
could have
benefited. Honestly, they could have benefited from having an episode per person to just set up where the fuck they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other than everybody talking about Nilfgaard, but not even realizing what the fuck that is. There were so many times where I was like, man, this Nilfgaard motherfucker. And then in episode 3...
This guy Nilfgaard.
And then you find out in episode 3 the reason Nilfgaard's fucking everything up is because they got disrespected by the queen when they tried to take her daughter's hand.
And that it's not even a guy, it's a nation.
It's a fucking nation, and it was a guy in that nation.
Or a kingdom, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. City-state, sure.
Yeah.
something continent.
Yeah, it's just called The Continent.
The Continent.
I believe.
Which is like what happens when you're writing something and you put a placeholder in because you want to think of a cool name, and then you send it to the publisher accidentally.
Well, then you realize it's fantasy. You can get away with calling anything the something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The ocean.
The ocean.
Wow. We have to cross the ocean?
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck. That's
So-
the one you don't want to cross.
So, who is everyone's favorite character?
Geralt. Yeah, I mean, his story was the most interesting to me. Mainly because there was cool monsters to fight. And I
Sometimes.
wanted to learn more about him because he had the whole air of mystery about him. I did like Yennefer's story, but it kind of threw me for a loop when I realized that it took place over the course of like 60 years.
Right.
Yeah.
I've lived 3 lifetimes, and you're like, bitch, you look exactly the same, and so does everyone around you.
and so does Geralt. Like,
Yeah.
Geralt's evidently hundreds of years old.
I think just said that, oh, you don't age, instead of like, I think maybe they mentioned it once in passing where she's like, and you look the same forever.
I think what they did the worst job of is demonstrating time was passing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, everything was out of order, so who gives a shit?
But that's, for me, if you're going to do stuff out of order, that's how you hint the audience into where you're at.
Yeah, but
Because
it
that's
didn't
what
matter.
I think
'cause it's
Westworld
like
did the best job with.
Yes,
Westworld did the best job with hinting at this is then and this is now. And if you're paying attention, you'll be able to tell the difference.
Exactly.
You're standing in the fucking woods. You have no idea.
They did. There were times, like during Yennefer's and Geralt's stories, that things were mentioned that you can infer that, yes, they were in different times. And there's no way to tell exactly when, because there's no date or time set for, anything. So we don't know years, numbers, or anything like that, like we're used to in our reality. But... there were things mentioned on, when they would go back and forth that, like you said, Falstead, Geralt looks at that painting, and then later in that episode, Yennefer, you see them as kids, and so you're like, okay, so this is clearly like probably 20 to 30 years ago,
Right.
And then when Yennefer, when she is, after she's been doing it for a while, she says outright, like, well, it's been 3 decades of doing this bullshit, and I want to do something else, So, they do make, they don't come outright and say it, and maybe that's a problem that they didn't, but they did put things into each of those different timeline, in those different episodes to just, they might be thinly veiled, but they're there.
Yeah.
So my favorite character actually was Yennefer. I really liked Geralt a lot. Henry Cavill, I thought he was great in that role. I think if he's not Geralt, I think the show is probably not as good. I think he really just did a really good job with that. At first, in the first episode, I didn't take to his gravelly voice, but then as that episode went on, I got used to it, and then it was how he talked, and I was like, okay, that's Geralt.
Yeah. And I've heard from people who've played the video games.
Yeah.
That if you play Witcher 3 now, they're one and the same. Like his representation of Geralt.
I saw a side-by-side video, and it's pretty spot on.
He's dead on. You can't even tell the difference in the voice. That's how good he did
that's
it.
Cool.
But my favorite character is Yennefer. I thought her story was the most compelling. I thought it was really interesting that, in Captain America, the First Avenger, he Dr. Erskine wants to give the power to a weakling because he says, he'll know the value of true power, and you think that's kind of what's going to happen with Yennefer, and then she kind of becomes corrupted by it. And I thought that was a really interesting way to go with that, and I thought her character arc was really good, and when in the final episode she just unleashes this unholy hellfire on this army, I was just like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was fucking amazing.
She's my favorite character as well. Because she had an arc.
Yeah.
They gave her more to do. She had a lot of screen time, a lot devoted to her kind of like growing from this person who's clearly abused or whatever
and deformed
into somebody who has power and is rectifying it against everybody else that's ever wronged her, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked her a lot, and just like her, the character had desire to do things.
Yeah.
Like she was clearly driven by something, even when people saw through it. Like when she shows up with that knight for that dragon hunt.
Yeah.
Like everybody obviously was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" But she was devoted to the idea until he got fucking murked.
Right.
So,
who kills a man while he's emptying his bowels? What a way to go.
Yeah, out of everyone, I think.
You already said you hated everyone,
character.
So
I didn't give a shit about the characters, but like out of everyone presented, she was the most interesting.
Okay.
But like, I didn't feel bad for her, ever. Never a once.
There were definitely times that she was so overboard most of the time.
Yeah.
That like I didn't necessarily feel bad for her.
Well, at the beginning, I did.
I also kind of wanted to see her fuck shit up.
Yeah, at the beginning, she's getting beat up by those kids, and then her father fucking sells her, and I'm like, yeah, this is fucking horrific. I felt really bad for her.
No, I definitely felt bad for her.
Then she tries to commit suicide, and that's rough, and yeah.
Once they rip out her uterus to perform blood magic,
that was rough.
That was super
Good
rough.
Lord.
And as I take it, that's done to all the mages. That all the mages, male and female, like and all the Witchers, they're all sterile.
Yeah.
Like Jesus.
And that became her driving force was I gave up the only thing that now I want because I don't have it.
Right. Yeah. And I kind of get it upon thinking about it, because in that universe it would make sense that you don't want the most powerful beings on the planet to start having families that are all equally as powerful, and then you just have a whole race of gods. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that's fair.
I really just in general, like, things that I liked. I liked that it was so high fantasy. I've not seen a lot of really well done, in my opinion, well done high fantasy stuff. I just love all the magic that was being used. I thought it was fucking awesome. The last episode with an outright battle between a bunch of mages and an army that also has a couple mages themselves. I thought that was fucking awesome. I was just like digging that the entire time. Just all the different magical spells being used and forces and shit. Like, I thought that was so cool.
I like that they were using magic without magic wands, or having to announce a spell as they do it.
Well, and that there's always the price to pay for the magic, like,
right.
That was one of the coolest in, like, Yennefer's training episode, or whatever you want to call that. When they have the flowers there for them to hold on to, because something has to take the brunt of the creation.
Right.
That was fucking. I was like, that concept's fucking incredible.
And the one,
like, there's some concepts in this show that I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I just wish they, like, messed around with that stuff more than the stuff that we got.
Yeah, well, what they do with the flower is they just set up that girl fucking up her hand.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of know that you need to do that when you do magic now. But it's never really addressed again, or done again.
When we cut to the end, when they're doing the raid on whatever, they're shooting the fireballs at them, and then you cut to where they're shooting the fireballs from, and they're using their own bodies and life force to make the fireballs, and as soon as she makes it, just turns into dust. Or the guy that's walking through, creating the what is it, like a fog, or it's a frost or something through the forest.
Right.
Yeah,
as soon as he comes through the door,
he's got like a smoke bomb in his pocket.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love that scene when like the guy that was launching the fireballs, like, watched that one go, and he kind of turns and he's like, again.
Yeah.
And the girl's like clearly like, oh, fuck,
yeah, I've got to turn myself into an ash pile.
That one didn't get him. They didn't. Are you sure? It looks like it got him.
You want to just take another gander at the parapet there, see if it. No. All right.
I did really like the action scenes and the sword fights and stuff like that. I thought that stuff was all really well directed and choreographed and executed.
I love a good sword fight.
Hell yeah.
That's why I love Lord of the Rings, because that's got some of the best sword play that's ever been filmed. And the sword fights in this were so fucking good. That first one that Geralt gets into at the end of episode 1.
Yeah. He becomes the butcher of
Blaviken. Yeah. It's fucking intense. It's really well shot. I thought that was fucking great. All of that, all the sword fighting.
And I noted, like, I think the fighting in the end of episode 1 is better than almost anything Game of Thrones has ever done on screen as far as their action scenes.
I mean, Game of Thrones had some okay sword fights. I don't ever think I saw a sword fight like that I was just like, my jaw was on the floor.
Yeah.
You know, they had battles, they had some fights, but I don't think there was anything like that. It was just like, oh fuck yeah, that's fucking great.
And it wasn't all shaky cam, which was nice.
Right.
No.
God. And like 30 different cuts to get it, and I can't stand that.
The only thing scarier than Superman is Superman with a fucking sword. So
I don't know if you guys have seen it, but to anyone else, go find the video online of that fight put to Queen's "Don't Stop Me Now."
Oh,
it is fucking hilarious. And
I saw one where it was cut to "Toxic" by Britney
that's
Spears.
the one I saw.
Nice.
And it's
and
like
it fit
perfect.
Yeah.
What the
Yeah.
Yeah.
God damn it.
It adds a whole nother dimension to that when you're listening to Britney Spears, and it's like every beat is on. It's ridiculous.
Honestly, I probably would have been more interested in the show if they just put Toxic in there. I'd been like, oh, okay.
Well, you could do it while Geralt bangs Yennefer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'll take you not being interested in the show for them not doing that.
Well, they're saying that season 2, I guess, is going to follow the full novels from here on out, so it's going to be much more linear.
Oh, I don't care.
Well,
I'm not watching
You're out totally, Jordan.
I'm out.
They had all three storylines meet up in the 7th episode, I think.
8th.
At least by the 8th. By the 8th, they were all lined up. So, yeah, you would think that there wouldn't need to be any more of that kind of storytelling.
It's just silly. It's just a silly decision. But other positives.
I liked Yaskier a lot. He wasn't my favorite character, but I did like him.
I'm still singing.
I'm sure he'll be back. Yeah.
Toss a coin. Well, who knows if he'll be back, because I don't know when that fucking took place. His whole thing could have been like 50 years ago.
Well, no, the last time we saw him was after the dragon.
Yeah.
And that wasn't that long after, like, basically, so when Geralt claims the law of surprise, 12 years basically pass until Ciri is, the age that we see her at. So it's probably a couple years since that dragon thing when he goes back to claim Ciri, but I'm sure they'll have Yaskier back. I mean,
if he is another earworm of a song,
yeah,
I don't know, dude. I'm still singing "Toss a Coin to Your Witcher."
Yeah, it's a fucking great little song.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
It did not earworm for me. Until I started seeing memes for it, I forgot that it was even sung. Honestly.
Okay.
It didn't hit. If it hit everybody else super strong and everybody loved it, great.
Yeah,
it didn't hit for me.
It hit immediately with me during that second episode. And I've looked up, like I said, I fell down a rabbit hole one night of looking up covers of it.
Yeah.
And I've been waiting for a really good metal cover because I think that it could really be a good metal, like hard metal song. Haven't heard one done well yet, but yeah. And then the other song that he did, it was at the end of that dragon episode. You saw him like kind of fiddling with it at the beginning of the episode, and then it played during the credits. I think it's called "Her Sweet Kiss." That was a good song too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so that was good.
I liked that dragon episode. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a cool episode.
Up until like the gold dragon was there and like talking but not talking, and it was just the dude's voice, and it just came off really hokey to me.
That I agree, actually. If it was a little weird that it was just some guy talking.
I'll protect the egg.
So I knew for a fact that the gold dragon would make an appearance in the episode.
Yeah, because he mentioned it.
Yeah, you don't. Yeah, it was like introducing the shotgun in the first act kind of deal.
Exactly.
And honestly, I knew that he was going to be the dragon as soon as he and his two bodyguards like just dropped into the mist. I was like, oh, so he's just going to turn into a dragon. Okay.
See, I wasn't sure at that point if he himself was the dragon.
Yeah,
or
I
if
thought
he just fucking had one.
I thought like he would like land on the dragon.
Yeah. I was fully expecting him to land on the dragon that would lift him above everyone else, and like I don't know.
For me, it was noticing what he was wearing.
The vest.
Yeah, his vest with
he
the
had
scales.
a lot of scaly stuff on, so I was like, oh, okay, so he just that's what he.
Yeah, but to be fair though, he did for whatever reason kind of just sound like a dragon. Whatever that means. He just the way that he spoke, like he just had this inclination in his voice that I was like, he's probably not all the way human.
He just kind of sounds fucking dragony, you know?
It really gave it away when he was wearing that Dragon Tales t-shirt.
Yeah, that was a weird decision.
He's like, Geralt, have you ever seen Pete's Dragon?
What?
Boom, callback.
Also, have you guys seen the supercut of every time he says fuck or grunts in the season?
I haven't, but it's great because he does go a lot.
But it's just also the
and fuck.
Specifically when he's in the castle and he's like, lost prize, whatever, it's fine. And then she barfs and he's like, fuck.
I loved his fight with the Striga.
Yeah, that was
in episode 3.
So I think that was my favorite monster.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
God, that thing was disturbing.
Yeah. What a fucked up way to even create a monster.
Umbilical cord still hanging on.
Yeah.
Oh.
So when I was watching this show, in my brain I had to go, okay, so it's Lord of the Rings meets Supernatural.
Ish.
Okay.
If only they did more Monster of the Week episodes.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing.
I wanted to see more of that.
Yeah, Witchers, they're monster hunters, right?
Yeah.
And
apparently, that's.
Like,
they had to. They're looking long term. Obviously, they want this to be a series that's going to go on for several seasons. They had to do a lot of world building, and I'm not saying they did it the right way. I'm saying that that's what they had to do. So that was their priority.
They did a ton of fucking world building.
Yeah.
The opening scene when he's fighting the Kikimora. That was awesome.
Yeah.
That was.
I just wish it was longer.
Yeah.
That was a cool fucking fight. And the street
like it was cool, but like the next time we see him monster fight is episode 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like for me, I was like, that's entirely too long.
He kind of fights this Sylvan. Is that right? The
half that weird
guy?
ram guy.
Oh yeah, he looks like the devil, and he just punches him in the face.
He looks like a satyr, kind of. You know.
Yeah.
So kind of that's technically monster-ish.
Yeah.
He did punch a monster.
For me going into it, not necessarily knowing anything about it, that was the selling point was like, dude, we're gonna get some fucked up monsters.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then more of it is like watching a 12-year-old run in the woods. And I just was like, okay, cool. Monsters. Remember the monster hunting?
But then once we get episode 3 and we get the Striga, it's like, okay, here we go.
God damn, that was
For
fucked
me,
up.
to me, the break, to explain it to anybody, and I tweeted it out from our Pop Cannon account. I said, if you're watching Witcher, and episodes 1 and 2 are a struggle for you,
right,
watch 3 to the credits, and if when the credits roll in episode 3, you're like, fuck this, stop, because it's not going to get better than that,
right.
And that's kind of the way it was for me. Like, I was struggling so hard to watch episode 3. I was just like...
And I actually got decent feedback on that tweet where some people were like, oh, I really enjoyed it from the beginning. Or there was at least 1 or 2 that were like, episode 3 was make or break for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Because it just seemed like there was just so much talking and shit that happening in the first 2.
Yeah.
And you finally get this fucking insanely set up horror-style fucking... fight with this monster.
God damn, that was brutal.
Where it was like Alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and it was all practical effects on the monster for the most part.
Yeah.
And like the creature design was awesome, and the makeup and everything was great.
I thought the effects were great.
Yeah.
I didn't... There wasn't anything that I watched and I was like, you know what, I'm kind of out from the way that it looks.
I loved the tavern that he finds Jasker in. Now it's kind of just built on this solitary rock.
Yeah, that little kingdom was really cool.
Yeah.
Like they built up, you know.
I mean, they really
out.
went all out with fantasy in a lot of the settings and things, and I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff.
Well, you know, if you're gonna try and fill the Game of Thrones hole, you got to have good production value, and they definitely did.
What was everyone's favorite episode? If you had to pick one specific episode.
For me, it's 3 because that's the make or break. I liked 4, where you get a lot more backstory and you're like, oh, okay. And I liked the dragon episode for the most part. I liked it was kind of like a fetch quest almost. And then the last episode was really cool. But I think 3 for me was like that fight carried goodwill for the show, carried me like 4 more episodes. So I loved that.
I enjoyed 5. I thought 5 was the best out of all of them. It's the one.
So that was the episode
djinn.
with the djinn. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
The djinn is like a real thing in mythology and stuff, which I thought was really cool. I know they had a whole episode around a djinn for Supernatural, but
also X-Files.
I think every monster in it is at least based on
some sort of real
kind
mythology.
That's cool.
A lot of it is because it's a Polish author, So it's a lot of things from that region.
It's probably more Norse or Celtic.
Yeah,
I know I've heard of a Selkie-Mor. I know I've heard that in like mythology or something before.
Yeah.
Or the Kikimora is Slavic. I think that said the Striga was like Albanian or something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like I like shit like that, and I wish it was more.
The fucking Albanians have like this weird abortion monster.
I really did love the scene in that episode when he has the guy tied up as bait.
Yeah.
And he just has this realization like, oh, fuck, I got to fight this thing all night. And pops the potion.
The potion, yeah.
Yeah. And then the guy gets his guts ripped out, and that was fun.
Yeah.
He
was a piece of shit.
Guts ripped the fuck out.
I will say, like, wow, this... I'll be honest, after those first couple episodes, I really liked all the episodes after that. They were all very different in tone and so forth. The orgy during the Jin episode was great.
Yeah.
I guess I'd have to say the dragon episode. I guess out of all of them that just stand alone, I liked that. I liked that the best. But
Rare species.
The last episode was great. I really loved that battle. I've never, we've never seen. That's the thing I like about the show. It's like it's a lot of stuff that I've never seen done before. Whether you don't like how it was done, that's fine. But I really liked that mage, that like a whole army of mages or a small squad of mages against a whole army. I thought it was fucking awesome. I'll say the final episode then. The final episode was my favorite. Yeah,
I think they call it a murder of mages.
Yeah,
multiple mages together,
and they were
multiple murderous mages,
melting mortars of mutated
muck duck
men.
Oh my god!
I believe the character Triss is also becomes more prominent. The one that
took the torch to the chest. So
yeah.
She might not survive.
But when I read that was one of my favorite scenes in that fight, when she's like, she just puts her hands on the ground and makes all these like deadly mushrooms,
poison mushrooms.
That was cool. That's something I'd never seen something like that. That was some poison ivy shit. I mean, the whole concept for the Witcher is just, it's right up my alley. I love monster design and high fantasy and all that, but it was just, this season wasn't. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, with everything falling into place. I feel a little disappointed. I still enjoyed it, and I'm still excited for the next season. But I don't know.
I loved how brutal it was, and I don't know why I wasn't expecting it again, because knowing that it was trying to basically fill that Game of Thrones void, like I knew that they would go for that. Like the fucking attack on Yennefer and the queen, I guess, that she was escorting.
That was fun. Yeah.
That was horrifying.
Yeah.
That was intense and terrifying. Like that fucking creature, like the kind of a spider ant that had like blades as legs, being controlled by that mage. Like that was fucking crazy.
And she keeps jumping through all the portals.
That part kind of felt like Saga.
I can see that.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Where it's just like this weird thing you've never seen before, and like a fucking merc, and you're like, okay.
And she steps out after seeing the blades come through, and you just see these dudes are ripped apart, like all of them. And I'm just like, holy fuck.
And I like that they kind of held back what the thing was that was causing that for a while.
Yeah.
And
you didn't necessarily see that monster for a little bit, and you're like, they were able to build like a small sense of dread in that little amount of time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not out for season 2. Like, I'm hopeful that, like, especially if beforehand there's a confirmation that it's gonna be a more linear story, I'll be for it, because
I don't see
they tied everything up at the end.
I don't see why it wouldn't be linear now that Ciri and Geralt have finally fulfilled destiny and they're now together, and then Yennefer is wherever, but she'll probably be back in that time frame.
So that was Geralt and Ciri not meeting up. At first was like, oh, they were so close, but by the end of it I was like, come the fuck on. Like, when he pulls up on that cart and she had just left that house, I was like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
Well,
because
that's why
we've done this the entire season.
That's why they immediately paid it off.
That was so fucking frustrating. But for me, it wasn't in a, like, there's frustrating that could be good in TV. But for me, that was frustrating bad because I was just like, you've been telling me since the first fucking episode that this is the one thing that has to happen.
Right.
Like, can we get to that? Because I feel like most of this was a fucking prologue to getting to the story.
Yeah, and I think that's accurate. Again, it's the world building.
Yeah, and that's just, and it's frustrating to have to watch 8 hours of something to then be like, now here's the story starting.
Which I would have been more okay with if there was just more cool moments like fighting the Striga, things like that that were better at holding your interest.
Yeah.
If they had filled it out with more just cool shit, which they had more than enough of to choose from, it would have played out better.
Yeah.
I will say, even though the series storyline was my least favorite, her storyline had some of the coolest moments. When she drank, I guess, directly from that tree, the sap, and then she tripped balls. She's like in a desert, and there's this fucking enormous lit up tree that's its light leaves are falling into the sky instead of down.
Yes.
And then
cool.
the tree says to her, "What are you, child?" I'm like, "What the fuck?" She's tripping balls so hard. And then
you had the sap from the the fucking cyclamen trees. Like,
child, you should get to a mage.
Wait,
get
did
to
you
a
drink
healer.
that sap? I was just kidding. Don't do that.
So I thought that was really cool. And then when her powers manifest the couple times, but especially in the last couple episodes when her powers manifest, when she's being basically attacked by those guys who are her friends, and
she does her canary cry.
Yeah,
well,
basically.
we don't know if that's all it is, because those guys ended up impaled on trees. Like, it was fucking intense.
Well, was it whatever episode she's getting, like, she's basically been kidnapped, and when she gets away and she like knocks this big boulder down and then splits the fucking earth.
Yeah. That was fucking nuts. So yeah, I'm really, those moments I'm intrigued to see what how it now happens with Geralt, like hopefully finding out about that and then guiding her how to use that. Like that has a lot of potential.
What is the law of surprise?
Basically, if you save someone's life or you do someone where they would be indebted to you and they don't have the ability to pay, they say it's the guy, like, so they explained it in that episode, but then they also explained it with the guy and the merchant in the last episode who rescued Geralt. It's basically, I offer you the law of surprise, that which I don't know that I have yet. And so it can be anything. It can be, a puppy that's just been born, or it can be a crop.
Basically, if you do something for someone and they can't repay you, they just promise you a thing in the future.
That's
as
correct.
Payment, yeah.
That they don't know that they have yet.
Because you're indebted.
Because I was like, they just kept saying it.
At first they did, but then they did explain it. Yeah.
No, and I got it to a point. But the way that they kept saying, "Oh, well, he has a law of surprise. That's why he's got to get Ciri," it almost made it sound like they promised their firstborn, and that's the fucking law.
Right.
And
where I was like, "Is that for everything? Like, what the fuck?"
And if you go against it, you're fucking with destiny, and it just fucks everything up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Calanthe's husband, I think his name's Iced. He, during the law of surprise episode, he does explain it a little bit, like it could be a crop or it could be a pup, but
so I think that's what I was going to say earlier. I thought it was really cool that they had Calanthe on the battlefield.
Yeah.
I really like
fighting
that.
queen, man.
Yeah. I thought that like that's a concept that I don't know that I've ever seen done before in that way.
Fuck, when she comes back to the castle in the one episode when they invoke the law of surprise and she's just covered in blood, like she literally walked off the battlefield, was like, "Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm here. What's going on?"
Just had to quell a little rebellion. No big deal.
Excuse me. What's up?
NBD.
How you doing?
Sup, dog? No, I mean,
I thought that was really cool, and she was a really interesting character.
Yeah,
I think they took that from our actual history, where I think there have been fighting queens. Like, I think Catherine the Great was a fighting, whatever she was on a Tsar queen or whatever in Russia. Like, there have been. Oh God, who did Helen? No, not Helen Mirren. Who played Galadriel? Cate Blanchett. She played a queen in a couple movies. That she was a fighting queen. That in our history, I think a British queen. So, also, and then of course gets her ass kicked, but
of course. But like
bound to happen.
It was one of those shows where they'll just fucking kill somebody. Mm-hmm. Like in the beginning when what is her husband's name? What was it?
Iced.
And he just
when he just gets fucking
murked in the face with an
arrow in the eye.
But
yeah.
There's just...
You're like, we just got introduced to that motherfucker.
Oh, he was interesting.
Okay.
I liked him. Yeah, they definitely weren't afraid to just brutally murder people off the show.
I will say this about, again, just the world building where they kind of failed, is that where Game of Thrones it was really genius having the opening be a map. Mm-hmm. Because and not just it being a map, but showing you little thing. Every episode it would be you would see the locations that would be involved in the episode.
Yeah.
Because we never saw a real map. Like we never saw, and the names were being thrown around. Like there are a bunch of different fucking kingdoms and a bunch of different fiefdoms, and there's evidently a north and a south, so that's good. But yeah, that's one of the things that I think they failed at was giving an actual idea of the scale,
giving the viewer a spatial idea of where everything is in relation to one another.
Even just a basic geography lesson for this continent would have been nice,
Right?
Because goddamn, like Temeria, okay, it's in the north. All right, fair enough. There was snow. Okay, makes sense. But like
girl of Rivia, but where's that?
Where the fuck is Rivia?
Sure.
Is it even still a country anymore?
Right.
They're not even a real country anyway.
It's like they're afraid of exposition almost.
Except for the first two episodes.
Yeah.
Like if you weren't paying attention then, fuck you, because we're running.
And I thought that was funny that they had Jaskier actually just outright say, "Look at me, just giving exposition."
Yeah.
Yeah, dude,
hang a lampshade on
stuff like that, man. Fuck.
Yeah.
For me, that's such a fucking
cop
it's
out.
on
it's
the
like
nose.
weak writing ploy.
Yeah.
It, like to give yourself fucking armor through that situation. Ugh. Look at me, just giving exposition. Nobody,
right,
in the history of mankind, has ever been explaining something to someone and been like, "Well, I'm just here giving you exposition on that." Nobody says.
Right.
It's a fucking term for writing something.
Except Basil exposition in the Austin Powers, because he's talking about himself.
Because he'd only show up to tell you what was actually happening.
It is shit, Austin. That was technically exposition. He explained it was shit.
Yeah, that's true.
So
any final thoughts on The Witcher?
I mean, I want more monsters and fighting them. And, even a 10-episode season, just so you can kind of thin out how
stacked everything was.
Just give us a little breathing room. You don't need to punch us in the face with so much exposition when all we really want to do is see monsters and boobs. We don't want engaging stories.
But not boobs with monsters.
Yeah.
Or monsters with boobs.
I want engaging stories. What the fuck?
I know. I'm just kidding. Of course, I'd prefer an engaging story.
Face-tious.
He wasn't doing it very well.
And that's why I'm a bad voice actor.
I again, like I said, it took a little bit to get into, but I really liked it. It scratched that itch that I have for good high fantasy, in my opinion. I will say I liked a lot of the supporting characters too. Even the ones that are assholes like Stregobor. I liked Tissaia de Vries a lot. I thought she was a really good character.
Mm-hmm.
She was a really good character. I don't think Stregobor was a good character.
For what he was, because he's that asshole. Like I thought that he filled that role, But yeah, I really liked it. I'm very much looking forward to the second season. I do hope that they iron out some of the issues with this first season, because if they don't, I don't know whether I would be in on a third season or not. But again, it also depends on how engaging the story is. If there are issues with it, if I could stick with it after that, just because the story's so compelling.
I'd say that overall I did enjoy the show. I am interested in seeing season 2. I'm not out, but I really hope that it's stronger than what we got here. Hopefully, people are being honest enough with their critique or criticism of it that the showrunners and writers will get the message that they want more monsters and a more linear story, and that this was not exactly what anybody wanted. Right. Because I've seen a lot of really just strong praise for it, and that's it.
The critics have not been kind to it.
Okay.
Critics, it's not doing great critically. It's gotten a lot of the people who've watched it that aren't critics seem to enjoy it. So The Mandalorian, was the biggest streaming service show until The Witcher hit, and now The Witcher is of 2019 the biggest globally. It's ridiculous. You can see some of the graphs online or some of the charts of how much the viewership went, and it's still getting good viewership. So
and I just hope that because critics aren't right all the time. Right. But I hope that they're mindful of we probably could have done that better.
Yeah.
Or we probably could have put another monster in this thing.
Yeah, I hope so. I would. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they will, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Proof will be in the pudding.
I'm completely out of this show. I gave them 8 hours of my time and instantly regret it. Nothing about it hooked me and made me want to watch more. Every time it made me want to go, I want to do anything else, literally anything else than watch this show. Whoever decided they thought it would be a good idea to put all the weird timeline stuff in, they're stupid. I think the show would have benefited more from just being linear. There was no reason it needed to be cut together that way. And I'll never forgive them for that. Henry Cavill was great. Some of the performances were really good. But
he really was the anchor of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Henry Cavill was I don't think I would have been as interested in the show if it wasn't for him.
But fun fact, I was talking to someone and they told me that the author of the books is one of these guys that likes his media and hates other media.
Oh dear.
So he does not like video games at all. And I think is it CD Projekt Red that?
Yeah.
Okay. So they bought the rights to the IP to use in something, and in their contract negotiations, the author hated video games so much that he's like, "You're not going to make a fucking dollar out of this thing. So I just want a lump sum up front, and then do whatever the fuck you want with it."
Oh boy.
And they were like, no. We want to give you a percentage. Trust us, it's going to do dividends over time. And he's like, lump sum or you don't get it.
Jesus.
And they paid him the lump sum. So I hope that he enjoys what I'm assuming is probably $500,000, while the video games just rake in cash. Because the video games are one of the biggest driving force.
A great businessman.
I only heard of The Witcher. I only heard of The Witcher because of the video
same
games. Here. And then when we worked at the bookstore, not to be named, I thought that they were writing the books based off of the game.
I thought the exact same
I didn't know
thing.
that the books came first. And then they got really, really popular at one point where I was constantly showing people these Witcher books, and I was like, what the fuck is this about? But I never really looked into it. I just knew it was a video game and thought people were reading the video game books, which I thought was real weird. But yeah, so
I've done that.
Yeah,
I read the novelization of Resident Evil 2, and it was fucking awesome.
I read the Doom novelizations.
Nice.
I'm not proud of that. but I did it.
I mean, I'm just saying that if you like a video game and they make a novel of it, you don't necessarily have to do that. That's most of the time those are like real fucking iffy. But that came first. Mm-hmm. The author hates video games, and he got shafted on money. So they
he shafted himself, sir.
Yeah. He did shaft himself.
Well, because didn't they call it was Witcher 3 was like one of the best games of the year when it came out?
Yeah, Wild Hunt. It was 2015, and that's when I think maybe Breath of the Wild was the next year, or Horizon Zero Dawn. Like it was all of those within like a 6-month period, and it's like, wow, this is a really great time for these open world games.
I just remember.
Yeah, but they're shit because I'm an author.
Everybody talking about The Witcher, the game when it came out, and I still didn't know it was based on a book.
Yeah.
I had seen the books, and I didn't know it was based on
Andrei
a book.
Sapolkowski or whatever the fuck his name is.
Well,
Sapolkowski.
His agent is really pissed.
He's like, no, just take the percentage, and he's like, no, and they threw something at each other. Maybe he tossed a coin to his.
Oh, Valley of Plenty.
So this has been episode 32, all about The Witcher. Let us know what you thought. For Pop Cannon, my name is Jordan.
I am still Robert.
I'm Andrew.
And I am Brianifer. Wait, Brian.
Brianifer of Brianabor.